most people realize, particularly in the state of Virginia. My guest is Virginia reckless driving attorney Bob Battle, and he has written a consumer guide entitled The Shocking Truth About Reckless Driving and Speeding in Virginia. So Bob, thanks for being here today.
It's great to be here, Cindy.
Well, Bob, tell me about this book and what the shocking truth is. I'm kind of curious.
Well, I represent a lot of people from other states, and I grew up in Northern Virginia, so I know what they do in Maryland, what they do in Washington, D.C., and what in other states is just a routine speeding ticket, a minor traffic infraction. In Virginia is actually a criminal misdemeanor charge. So in Virginia, anything above 20 miles or more above the speed limit, or anything above 80 at any speed, so 81 to 65, 65 and a 45, can and will be charged as reckless driving speeding, which is a Class 1 criminal misdemeanor.
And what does that mean?
Well, it means most people are familiar with a traffic ticket that
Sure.
after so many years the points come off.
Right.
Well, criminal record is not state specific. So what it means is if you're convicted of this charge, you have a permanent criminal record. So if you ever have to fill out on a job application or a security clearance that you have a record, you have to answer yes, I've been convicted of a Class 1 criminal misdemeanor, and that is the most serious of the misdemeanor offenses, Class 1.
So what is the answer? In other words, I imagine that the average person, as you've kind of noted with that example, the average person probably doesn't realize that this is something they now need to put on job applications and other things. So if they don't realize the seriousness, then my guess is they don't get lawyers as they should or as often as they should.
That's right, and that's why I've written the book. That's why I try to post it on the internet, on newsletters I send out wherever I can, just to get the word out to people, because the reality is that for most people, if you even got a decent record, if you're below 90, some jurisdictions below 95, if you hire a lawyer, the lawyer usually can work the case out. And one thing that I try to stress, and actually there was a Baltimore Sun article written about my book, and the person who wrote that said as well, that in a lot of places prosecutors aren't willing to plea bargain with someone who shows up without a lawyer. And the reality is most of the areas I practice in, which most of them are huge speed traps, they're very good when you get there talking to the prosecutor, the police officer, the judge about working something out that reduces it from reckless driving. And the other, if there is any good news of this for people when they find out how serious it is, usually the person doesn't even have to come to court.
Well, Bob, how can someone get a hold of this guide you've written?
If you go to my website, which is bobbattelaw.com, right on the website you'll see that there's very prominently a picture of the book, and just says you fill out the form. And once they fill out the form in the book, it'll be sent to them as a free ebook download. So it'll be sent to them instantly. It's free. As I said, this is such important information that people need to know and can have such a devastating effect on their future. I talked about the one person who lost and this is a job, this is a six-figure job. Talked to another young woman a couple months ago who a year ago just paid a ticket in Virginia. She was a Ivy League student at the time and was subsequently admitted into medical school. Well, she paid this ticket. 21 days later, becomes a final judgment under Virginia law. A year later, after being accepted into medical school, they do a routine criminal background check, and this medical school had a zero tolerance policy, meaning it doesn't make any difference that this speeding ticket wouldn't have been a criminal offense in her state, where she was from, or any other state but Virginia. She has a permanent criminal record. She got her medical school acceptance rescinded. So I got to assume that there's some medical school she'll get into eventually, but at least with what doctors make, and that puts her a year back on track. She starts the process all over again. So this is a $100,000, I got to assume she'll be starting at least $100,000 as a doctor down the road. So it's a $100,000 mistake by not getting an attorney, because I know her record, know the jurisdiction, and know my track record that it's almost a certainty in that area that I could have gotten her reduced to a traffic infraction.
Let me ask you one more question, because you said this really relates just to Virginia. Why it seems so unfair? I mean, first of all, why do you think Virginia stands out as being so, stringent? And secondly, do you see any prospects of the laws changing?
Well, the first thing, I think it's really a monetary issue. And, if you talk to politicians, you don't even need to talk to politicians, you need to look at the state budget. A couple years ago, in the state budget, and I've reported this in my blogs and my website, in the budget there was a figure of $100 million. $100 million that they expected to collect in fines and court costs from traffic cases.
Oh my word.
So this is, what Virginia is doing to try to offset a lot of the budget deficit. So it is a big money-making thing, and obviously the penalty range for a criminal Class 1 misdemeanor can be up to a $2,500 fine. So really, it's always been a money-making thing. And you talk about the laws changing. Well, the laws are changing, but not for the better. Because basically, what happens on July 1, 2010, just, very short time from when we're recording this,
Right.
is that Virginia has changed the speed limit from 65 to 70 miles per hour. And I know most people think, well, that's good, you can go faster in Virginia. Well, here's the catch. It is still reckless driving speeding for anything above 80 miles an hour. So 81 and a 70 mile an hour speed limit is now reckless driving speeding. And so a mere 11 miles over the speed limit, and as sort of the general public, the general perception is that you get 10 miles per hour. That's sort of in Virginia, really, as a matter of fact, generally you get 9 miles an hour. Virginia has 3 categories of point offenses. There are 3-point offenses, 4-point offenses, and 6-point offenses. And speeding 1 to 9 is a 3-point offense, 10 to 19, 4, 20 or above, or reckless driving at any speed is 6. So the police officers very rarely charge the 1 to 9. But the problem is all those people who think you get 10 miles, if they happen to be, creeping over that, and the police sit, I know this, I used to be a prosecutor, they sit in areas where they know where people tend to increase their speed. They sit on downhill areas, they sit on long open areas after, the city like Richmond or Petersburg or up in Northern Virginia where they know people will finally, traffic will open up. So those people doing 11 miles an hour over are going to be snagged with this new law. So what we will see come July 1 is just a ton of extra people. The average speed once it changes to 70 is probably going to be 80 miles an hour.
Right.
So we're just going to be seeing a ton of people who otherwise wouldn't have been in that range when it was a 65 mile an hour speed limit, who now are going to find themselves charged with reckless driving, speeding.
Wow, serious stuff. Well, Bob, thank you so much for being with us today.
Sure.
And just repeat that website one more time.
Sure, it's Bob Battle Law, www.bobbattlelaw, BOBBATTLELAW.com.
Very good. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure, Cindy.
Okay. Until next time, this is Cindy Speaker for State Law TV.